I think that she's been able to really sell herself to the Conservative Party membership in a way that Rishi Sunak has not been able to. The Conservative Party membership are they're a very thin slice of British society. They tend to be older, male, and white. And she's done a very good job at framing herself to suit that very specific demographic.
Could Rishi Sunak turn that lead around by the end of the week when ballots close, do you think?
Well, it's interesting because nobody actually knows really how the ballots are being cast. And what's quite unfortunate is that very early on, it became a common narrative that Sunak was losing by quite a lot. And as soon as that happened, more and more people started jumping to Liz Truss's bandwagon. Yes, it would be possible to turn it round, but Liz Truss would have to do something, a dramatic blooper or buffoonery case. And that's why she's been keeping away from a lot of high-profile interviews.
Who is the preferred choice by the main opposition Labour Party?
Well, that's a very tricky question, but I would imagine that in some ways the Labour Party would probably be happier going up against Liz Truss than they would Rishi Sunak. Liz Truss is a very competent minister, but she does have a bit of a reputation for gaffes and for talking very quickly without the evidence around her, and also for just changing her mind on big topics. Rishi Sunak, far more experienced, far more diligent, economic expertise at his fingertips. So on balance, I would imagine the Labour Party are probably happier to face Liz Truss than they would have been Rishi Sunak.
And how is this all benefiting the Labour Party with the next general election expected in 2024?
Well, that's the big question. And to be quite honest, the Labour Party are growing in popularity. They're about 15 points ahead at the moment. That's good. That's great if you're a Labour Party supporter. It's unlikely, though, to be enough to actually win the next general election. You would expect the main opposition to be far further ahead than they are at the moment. And all the surveys suggest that Keir Starmer is not breaking through with the British public in terms of offering a very clear, dynamic, positive vision of the future.
So what happens next with this race to become the next leader of the Conservative Party and the next British Prime Minister? When will we know who will be installed?
Well, it's all going to happen pretty quickly now. It's been a long summer getting to this point. So many hustings, I can't quite believe it. People are exhausted with it. But Monday, we will get the results from the Conservative Party membership. That will mean we have a leader of the Conservative Party. And on Tuesday, and in a very novel departure, which has just been announced, the Queen will instill a new Prime Minister for the first time ever, not in London, but it will happen in Scotland. So if Liz Truss wins, the Queen will anoint her the new Prime Minister on Tuesday, and then really the hard work will begin.
Why is that? Why in Scotland?
The Queen just happens to be there. I think there's a sort of a reluctance for too much travel at the moment, and also possibly a slight indication, from the Queen that whoever is the next Prime Minister has to take into account territorial tensions. There's a lot of talk of the disunited kingdom, and this just might be a little sign from the Queen to say, let's not just focus on London, but the broader United Kingdom.
Interesting. So many challenges ahead for the next leader. What state is Boris Johnson leaving the UK government in?
Well, to some extent, not a very good state. There's a big argument about the degree to which that's Boris Johnson's fault as the Prime Minister. Whether you love him or loathe him, Boris Johnson inherited a period in office defined by, first of all, Brexit, and then COVID, and then a war in Ukraine. The cost of living crisis can't really be put at Boris Johnson's door, but also we have had a bit of a zombie government for the last few months while we've had a Prime Minister in office but not in power. The bizarre thing is that this really means we don't know a huge amount about what Liz Truss, if she becomes the next Prime Minister, what she's actually going to do and her policy manifesto beyond some fairly basic comments about economics.
What do you think she might be like as a leader?
Well, I think, she's very well respected. She's very experienced. She has very clearly grown and matured, and dare I say, even enjoyed the leadership campaign. She started off, she clearly wasn't very comfortable. She was very wooden, and she's quite clearly relaxed into the role. There's one thing becoming prime minister or president. It's very different when you actually do that job from day one. So I think she will have a very, very full in tray. She will be expected to have superhuman powers. But the interesting question really is less about Truss and more about Boris Johnson, because the big question is, how does a new Conservative Prime Minister cope with having a former Prime Minister like Boris Johnson, who is very unhappy, very grumpy, and very annoyed at how he's been treated, marching about on the back benches? So there are lots of policy challenges, but possibly the biggest challenge is going to be controlling Boris Johnson.
We look forward to seeing how that pans out. Professor Matthew Flinders, thanks so much.
Thank you.